And we are live.
Let's
Yes.
go.
Let's go. So we are super excited to host Max Jimenez, the real estate disruptor himself, the bronze, the bronze winner of the Closers Olympic.
Yep.
Arguably, some will say that he should got the gold or the silver. So, Max, we are super excited to have you. Thanks you for taking the time
Huge
to
honor.
be on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you, Joav, Haim. I really appreciate it. I'm really extremely excited to be here. And, when you told me, hey, do you want to come on the show? I'm like, yes, of course. You told me what it's about, the background. I love this. Thank you. Thank you both, gentlemen, for having me on here. And I'm looking to, bring as much value to your followers and, your group. I'm excited.
Same here,
Yeah,
buddy. Same here.
so yeah, we were super excited. So I think again, I always like to share how you and I met. So you want to share again because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
before people know Max that on the show again, it was very interesting to see how we both met.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was back 2015, I want to say, right? So that was I found out about I started in real estate in 2014 and then I really didn't do too much with it like most people, right? I think they see it as a vehicle, but for the most part, the information that you lack doesn't allow you to take action, right? You look for that
Mhm.
information, then you get caught up in analysis. But eventually in 2015, I actually I was working full time and I ended up going to a real estate event called Extreme Freedom, hosted by Sean Terry. And so that was my first real estate event. And, that's where Haim was. I met Haim. We said hello to each other. And ever since then, we stayed in contact. And, Haim he catapulted. I don't know how you slingshot your career, but you took action, right? You went full throttle. And I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. And I even, I think we have a similar story, right? Because it took me from the date of that event, it took me about 11 months to get my first deal while working full time, still working on the business. It took me 11 months. I even would reach out to you, right? Hi, I'm like, hey, do you have this document? What do you think about this? And you were doing quite a bit of stuff in Memphis. I do remember that. I don't know if you're still in that
Mhm.
market or not, but yeah, you were doing quite a bit of stuff in Memphis. But yeah, that's how we met. And we've been friends ever since. And I think we're still part of the same mastermind. I'm not sure. Eventually came to be part of the same mastermind. But definitely it's an honor and privilege, man. And I want to say this in front of people. Time is a huge example for me of how I would love to eventually have my business, right? Because we all have every business is different, but Haim is someone that I hold high, near, and dear as an example of somebody that, man, that's the business model that if I was to hold any business model, Haim is the prime example of that. And it's an honor, man. Honestly, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. And it's great to see you grow. And now again, we are hosting you as a guest, as one of the top closers in the country. So tell us a little bit about your experience of the Closers Olympics. Again,
Sure.
from behind the scene, kind of if you can share with us how it feels, if it was a lot of pressure, if you felt that again there is
Right.
anything you learned from it, because it's pretty stressful position
It,
to
it
be in. I would say.
Definitely, you got the top 14 or 15, quote unquote closers in real estate. So when Elijah called me, Elijah's one of the owners and founders of the Closer Olympics, Elijah Rubin. He called me and said, "Hey Max, I like to extend an invitation to come onto the Closer Olympics." And I said, and he's like, here's the dates, here's what's gonna happen. Let me know if you were. I said, absolutely. Like this is what I've been training for, right? This is what I've been waiting for. Like this is an opportunity to showcase, what we do here internally, what our sales process and how we handle sellers, right? And basically show off not only what is it called, the quote unquote close a deal, but also show that there's a strategy, right? Like you can be systemized. And that was my biggest thing, right? Is when I got invited, I was like, man, this is an opportunity to show people that it's not just raw ability. It's not just what is the word, like greedy. You don't have to you can have a skill and you can have this systemized. So I said, this is a great opportunity. Obviously, yes, there is pressure because you're putting your name on the line, you're putting your your brand on the line, of course, all that comes with it. But also, the one thing that I learned, that I took away, the biggest thing was the impact that was made. Going back to what I was saying earlier about that event, right? It was Sean Terry's event. I know Haim. I don't remember if you paid the VIP or not, or you just paid
I
the
did.
regular. You
I
did,
did.
okay.
I did.
So I
I
did
did.
not pay the VIP. I was in the general admission. General admission costs $99, and you bring a friend. And
Mhm.
so basically, I was even doubting, like, I don't know if I should pay that $99, right? And I'm glad I did, because it changed my life. And I'm going to tie this in with the Closer Olympics, because it was only $97 to access and watch everybody do their thing live. And so somebody asked me one day, what we were on the press conference, and said, Max, what would you tell someone that's on the fence about jumping into watching it? And I said, listen, this is what happened to me. I shared the story of the $99. These $97 that you're going to pay here is going to impact not only your business, but your yourself as well, to develop communication skills. You're going to see a lot of different styles. You're going to get to see how these high level guys are doing it at such a high level, not only teaching it, not only by presentation, but live, right? What's
That's
even better,
amazing.
you're going to get to watch them talk to live sellers, get stumped, get objections thrown at them. And so that was a huge takeaway for me, was the impact, right, of the audience. I think we're the real winners in this case. And for me personally, I think just learning from different people, right? Because one thing I always say is, like, we're in our business every single day, and what happens is we just look and see our style, like, and we think like our style is the best, right? Like, it's the only
Mhm.
way. But I got to see other styles that were very different from ours, and I learned from those, right? I learned from every single guy. They brought things to the table, and they brought things to exposure that I probably would have never thought about doing. And that's the amazing part of it, is the impact, the people that attended, and then also for me personally, I learned a lot from all the other closers as well too.
Amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. So first of all, guys, again, we want to make sure that this session is interactive. If you have questions for
Yep.
Max, just bring it up. Again, we want to make sure we give you as much value as possible. And I think what we want to highlight here is that the different styles, Max has a very specific styles, and maybe you can share with us, what do you believe as a good sales call? Because we watched RJ and we discussed his style,
Yeah, of
and
course.
Monif as well.
Right.
And everybody has their own taste, their own flavor. There is no one strategy that better than the other. So tell us kind of
Correct.
what you believe in as a strategy on a sales call
Of
when
course.
you speak with sellers.
So my thing is, I look for a couple things when I'm on a sales call with the seller, right? The first thing is that the number one thing that I look for is, do I have an engaged prospect, right? That's very important. I think a lot of us that are still on the phones, believe me, I still get on the phones with my team. That's really what helped me, right? Like, it wasn't. That's why I didn't feel a lot of pressure when I was in the Close Olympics, because I actually do this on a day in and day out. All of our
Mhm.
scripts, everything that we have has been built around getting our face kicked in, right? And what I mean by that is going out to appointments and going through the struggle, right? Like that's what helped me, because it wasn't just something I read in a textbook. But going back to your question, is that my I'm a big believer in, number one, when you're on a sales call, is that, do you have an engaged prospect? Now, how do you find that out? Is you got to ask questions, right? If you have a prospect that's coming at you, you answer the phone, and right away the first thing they're saying is, well, what do you offer, or what company are you with, and they're not even giving you any engagement in regards to answering your questions. Then you have to ask yourself, is this somebody I really want to put through whatever sales funnel you have? Is this somebody I want to put through my sales funnel, right? It doesn't matter what sales funnel it is. Is this somebody that's worth of my time, right? I'm a big believer that we're not in the convincing business. We're in the sifting business. We can't help everybody, right? So
Mhm.
the way we find out is, do we have an engaged prospect? So, hi, how come you're considering selling this property? You know what? I just want your offer. That's it. I don't want nothing else. So now we know this prospect's not engaged. He's not going to answer any of my questions, regardless of what I say. That's the first thing that I look for, right? And I think I posted this, and I talked about this on the podcast. If you don't have an engaged prospect, you have a dead prospect, right? And you must move
Yes.
on. That's the first thing. Um, I'm also a big believer is the second thing is that you don't make a move without a commitment. That kind of ties in with the engagement part. A lot of times what happens is when a prospect says to us, "Hey, what's your offer?" or "What would you pay?" or "What can you do for me?" What happens either we jump too quick into either comping, into doing work for the seller without even getting a commitment from them to answer a couple questions or even know that they're going to work with us. And obviously we have very strategic questions that help us to get to find out if this is somebody that's going to do that. And then the third thing is that we actually close them before we even get to the price and all that. And the way we do that
Mhm.
is we have a part that's called and some people call it different, right? There's some people call it upfront contract. We call it establishing the rules. Every sport event that you go to, including soccer, Hein, because you're a soccer fan, Joaf, I don't know if you're a soccer fan as well.
Not a big one. Not a big one.
So I'm a big baseball fan, and so what do umpires, what do referees do before the game starts? Hey, they meet at the either they meet at the home plate or they're meeting on the field, and they're saying, hey, if this happens, we're gonna call this a strikeout, we're gonna call this a foul, right? That's what the referee's
Mhm.
doing. So what we like to do is we like to do the same thing, right, with our sellers. Is we tell them, look, Mr. Seller, what's going to happen on this call? In order for me to find out this is a property we're going to buy, I'm going to have to ask you a few questions. Some may even be personal. Is that fair? Right? We're establishing the rules. And then we let them know and then we know naturally one or two things are going to happen. We're going to either work together or we're not, which is okay. At any point that you feel like this is not a fit for you, would you please let me know? Would you be okay letting me know? Right? We're giving them the okay to say no. And they're like, sure,
Mhm.
of course, I'm going to tell you, if it doesn't work out. Perfect. Now, sometimes it does make sense to work out. And then what we'll do is we're going to close them here. We're going to say, if it does make sense for us to work together, what this means for us as the company is that we're going to put everything that we agree upon in writing. Are you comfortable doing that, Haim? Right now, we're getting the commitment up front. So those three things, right, is the engagement, and also, asking questions and then establishing the rules is very important in our sales process because I believe like if you don't have an engaged prospect and you don't set the rules right, let him know what's going to happen in the appointment, and the outcome can be anything, right? Because I know a lot of your listeners are virtual, so the outcome
Mhm.
could be either, hey, if it does make sense for us to work together, what this means is that I'm going to have someone come out, either go look go take pictures, whatever the case may be, right? Whatever you want the outcome to be on
Mhm.
the call. If it's get the contract, then you got to let them know like this is happening
Mhm.
today, regardless. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's amazing. Now, do you do all this, setting the agenda, getting the advance agreement or the upfront contract in the first 2 minutes of the conversation?
No, no, you have to get a feel. Remember, we
Okay.
have to make sure that we have that engagement, right? So, like when we're doing, so for example, on our postcards, because we'll do mailers or we'll say cold calling, right? Well, because I don't know if everybody on here does mailers or not, because we have two different strategies. We have our VA that do cold calling for us, and they send us, the leads. So basically,
Mhm.
what we say is we'll call you and say hello, Heim, and then you'll say hello, right? One thing that we don't do is we don't ask like, is this Heim? I'm looking for
Mhm.
Heim, or I'm trying to reach Heim, because
You jump in.
yeah, you just jump in, right? You want to create a pattern interrupt to grab their attention. So usually when you say hello, Heim, and you want to say it with certainty because now they're going to be like, whoa, do I know this person? Let me pay attention to this individual that's actually calling my name. Where
Mhm.
in the opposite side, where you say hello, Heim, or I'm trying to reach Heim, the defenses go up because which industry, it's usually a sales call. It's usually a cold call that's actually doing that, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm going to say next, hey, Heim, I'm calling you because, actually, I'll say my name. Hey, Heim, it's Max. I'm calling you because you spoke to one of my team members about, potentially selling your property over on 123 Main Street. And then they'll say, yeah, I actually did, right? My next question is very important. Actually, at the Closer Olympics, a lot of people didn't like it, and a lot of people did. But the problem is, a lot of people don't know how to do it. Is you have to make. I make the statement is probably caught you at a bad time. Now, the
Mhm.
reason why I do this is because I want them to tell me if they say, like, if you go into the conversation and you're 5 minutes in or 3 minutes in, and then you think you have a live prospect or engaged prospect, and they're like, I'm so sorry, I don't have the time. Now you're like, oh man, wait a minute, you're scrambling, right? You're trying to figure out, how do I rein this back? How do I get a follow up? So So then by asking that or sorry, by making that statement, it's a statement, it's not a question, probably caught you at a bad time. So what happens, it gets the react, no, 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 what's this about? And then now I'm going to go into telling them again. I tell them my name. I want to make sure they know my name. Hey, it's like I said, it's Max. I'm calling you because you spoke to one of my team members. You know what? I have the notes here, but the notes don't tell the whole story. Haim, just out of curiosity, what has you considering selling this property?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna get you talking a little bit, right? Now we're gonna find out, and they're gonna tell me, well, here's what I'm considering selling. My next question is actually a very it's gonna tell me which way this call is gonna go, and it's a very simple one. It's mostly just, hi, I appreciate you sharing that information. How are you hoping that I can help? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you hoping that I can help? I like using the word hope because it makes an impact, right? Because that's what most people want, right? Hope that you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only two things that can happen with that question. Is like, you know what? I was just looking for an offer, honestly, or I was hoping you would do this, X, Y, and Z. Now, hi, I'm going back to your question. If it goes the opposite way of, hey, just make me an offer, that's all I want from you, to where, Haim, I was hoping that you could do this. Okay, no problem, Haim. Before we get into that, may I share with you how we work? Now I'm going to establish the rules. So you see, I put
Okay.
them through a phase. I put them through a phase, and I put them through a couple of compartments before I get there. Yep.
Beautiful.
And this is all about, Max. I think you're a big fan of a process, right? I mean, let's talk about it, right? There is a lot of people. What process? Let's be more specific. Walking with a script, right?
Exactly. That's what Jaime and I were talking about, Joab, is that we were talking about where that's one of the feedbacks that we got. Even RJ, when he was on the podcast, like, man, you guys are so systemized. Like, did you guys ever feel like, for example, Max, can he just do whatever he wants because he closes so many deals? Or let's say that you have a high, a high player that's closing a lot of deals. Absolutely not, because we want to keep it works for a reason, right? We're very systemized. The process that we follow works every single time, rinse and repeat. Um, are we going to lose some deals potentially sometimes? Yes. But I think we're going to win more deals and bigger deals because of having that systemized process and
I agree.
having that framework intact. Because the way I look at it is that if it's like a roadmap, right? Like you can have a roadmap, from point A to point Z. Sometimes you'll veer off to go do some sightseeing, sorry. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The roadmap's going to tell you, hey, let's get back on track. And that's the same thing, right? Having a process, having a script. I'm a big believer in that. And that way you're never taken out of bounds, when you're talking to a seller. Yep.
It's like a compass that always bring you back to the right direction, right?
Exactly. Because, even though I've talked to so many sellers, the fact that they're gonna throw things at you that you're not gonna be where you're gonna be like, you might not be thinking about that at that moment, but guess what, the system is gonna allow you to come back to and say, okay, here's where I need to say this if this happens. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I think this is related to the question here, because I think based on what you said, I think it's easier to train an acquisition person once you have the process down. Because again, the person here says, how would you train your acquisition manager, saying that everyone has his own sales strategy? So I don't think that's what we said, right?
No. So we all have a different style, right? And what I said about is you got to create your own sales funnel, right? And so what I mean by that is that Haim, I think you said this very well. I mean, you've had RJ here, you've had Munif, right? And now you have myself. Way three different styles, but there's something that you can take, individually from each style, and you can create your own. So like our style, even though we have it very systemized, if you go into, which we learned from the Sandler system, that style is even more systemized than us. Like you're not allowed to deviate, right? That's even more, but we tailored it to, because there's two things. You got to tailor it to your business. And the second thing is that you got to tailor it to the personality of the individual as well, too. Like
100%.
I can't take Haim style, I can't take RJ style and do the exact same thing as RJ's doing, because I'm not RJ. But I can take a piece of Haim, I can take a piece of RJ, and I can create my own script and my own process, and I can make it my own myself. Yep.
We see it over and
Beautiful.
over again, guys. I mean, every closer and every, person that comes in, we always come back to the same point that the highest place of salesmanship at the end is being yourself, right? This
Exactly.
is it. Finding your personality in it.
Yeah, one thing. So like RJ, he what he does very well is right off the back he builds trust, and also people tell him everything that he needs, right? For me, I wish I had that. For me, it's like if I don't hear what I need to hear within the first 3 minutes, 4 minutes, my big thing is I'm thinking I'm hanging up, right? That's my style, all right. Where and the reason why and that might not work for anybody else, right? They might want to hang on the phone because they're getting a little more information, but RG does a really good job to he builds rapport as soon as he says hello. I don't know if it's the Texan accent or what that is. He's got an advantage on that. But again, Munif too, like Munif, what he does is he does a very good job at mirroring it. That is one
Yeah.
trait that if anybody wants to learn a trait, that would be mirroring your. Now there's different type of mirroring, right? Because we're on the phone. For me, what I've said before is that your tonality is your body language on the phone. So you have to be
Yeah.
very careful. If you're talking to somebody that's really soft, you need to lower your voice, and then you need to if you're talking to somebody that's very fast, hey, okay, what do you want? I say you're straight to the point, so you got to speed it up. So that's the kind of mirroring. Monif did that very well. I do that really well, but Monif takes it another level where he actually almost sounds like the seller he's talking to. That was amazing to see that. I was blown
Yeah.
away by that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So tell us about your process, because are you going? Do you close everything over the phone, or because I know in Phoenix you go face to face appointment? Because I know that you also in virtual market
Yeah.
as well. Do you change your strategy when you go strictly virtual as opposed to being locally in Phoenix?
So there's such a thing called intuition, right? And experience. A lot of people, especially people that teach sales or people that that do presentations, they don't really talk about that, right? Intuition and experience. The question that I don't know if you want to put that up, but back up, but that question is it depends on how you feel the call is going. So if you have an engaged prospect and you know that the seller is giving you everything that you want, and on a virtual, because we lock deals up on a one call, sometimes we lock them up on a two call, right? On a second call on the follow up. So it all depends. We do go for the close on the first call on our virtual markets. Here in Phoenix, we kind of rein it back just a little bit because we know we can go to the house, but we're always looking to lock up the deal for sure. But the thing is that you got to be able to recognize that you got to be able to recognize how the call is going. You got to have intuition for the seller. Are they feeling pressure? You got to do checkpoints, right? You got to ask certain questions. If the seller's open and they're giving you what you need, there's no reason why you shouldn't keep the call going to get you to the contract. And we've seen it both ways, right? We've seen it where we got it on the first call. We've seen it where we on the second call. But here's the trick. One thing that you must do if you are going to do it on the second call, because a lot of times what happens is that all the people that have input on the sale are not on the call, right? Usually the first call, it's more of they're trying to gain information, or you're trying to figure out if this is a deal you're going to buy. Um, if you don't close it on the first call, you got to get a commitment. You got to get a commitment, and you got to figure out. You got to let the seller know. Sorry, you got to get a commitment, and then also the seller must tell you what's going to happen on the second call. You can't just hang up, right? So if I'm talking to you, Haim, and you tell me, look, Max, what I need to do is I want to get my wife, right? I want to bring her on the phone. Right now she's at work. What I want to do is I want you to talk to both of us, and I'm gonna say, hey, that's not unusual. I get it. When there's couples involved or multiple people that have input on the sale of the property, you notice I don't use the word decision maker. I don't really like that word because sales is the only industry that uses that word. So I like to use have an input, veto power. Somebody that
Mhm.
you can confide in. And if they tell me
Okay.
yes, so what I do, Haim, is say, look, Haim, okay, so if you were me, Haim, when would you schedule that call for me to call both you and your wife? Right now, I'm letting
Okay.
you
I like
decide. Right? You're gonna say,
I like
okay,
that.
Max, you can call me Friday at 4 p.m. Okay, great, Haim. When I call you, this is a trap question. When I call you Friday at 4 p.m. and you and your wife are on the phone, what is that call going to look like? What are we gonna
Mhm.
talk about? Right?
Okay.
Now I want you to tell me, and what I want to hear is we're gonna see if we're gonna go with you or not, or we're gonna see if we're gonna do business, right? Okay. So I want to
Mhm.
hear, I want to hear the commitment from you, right? I'm not the one that's creating the rules here. I want you to do okay, perfect. So Friday when I call you at 4, sounds like if you're comfortable with everything you see, Sounds like we could be doing business together. And yeah. I mean, if my wife's happy, okay, perfect. So what I'm hearing is, and then what I'll do is I'll do a quick little probe. So, okay, so typically when someone tells me, if they like what they hear, obviously, if your spouse agree, we'll be doing the business together. To me, that means putting things in writing. You notice what I'm doing? I'm getting those commitments. I'm getting them closer to the close. So when I call them when I call you on Friday, Haim, everybody knows what's happening. Right? It's not like a call again, like you got to pick up and go through the whole process all over again, right? You know what's happening. I know what's happening. All we got to do is get the details out of the way, and that's it, right?
Yeah, it's like golf. You're basically bringing the ball closer to the hole, and the Friday call is basically you just punt it to the hole.
That's it. Exactly. That's a good analogy.
Max, there is anything that you do to ensure or to assist, to improve the chances that the guy is actually gonna pick up the phone on your follow-up call?
Yes. So that's at the end. So I would say, Haim, is there anything you can think of that would stop us from meeting Friday at 4? Right. I mean, besides an emergency, right? I understand if that happens. And if he tells me absolutely not, so now I got the commitment, right, from that person or from Haim, sorry. And then my next question would be, Haim, I've had the same situations where I book, an appointment. I actually have an appointment before you, a phone call, and the one right after you. So I'm making a little bit of room so I can talk to you and your wife that day. If something does come up, how would you let me know? See, so now we got now we're getting the second commitment, which he said he's good to go at 4:00 unless an emergency happens. And now he's going to tell me whether he's going to call me, text me, or email me. Right now, he's making the commitment for that. And that's really all you can do, right? At the end of the day, if obviously we can't control the uncontrollable.
Yeah, it's about trying.
But we can try to make sure that we solidify and also get commitment if something does change, that they let us know. And again, one thing that I see a lot of guys in this business is that I call it what's the word? Equal stature. Now, what I mean by that is that just because we're buying a house from a seller doesn't mean that their stature is a lot higher than yours as a buyer, because again, they're making a huge commitment, but so are we. We're paying cash, right? At the end of the day,
100%.
we're bringing in the money, right? So what I like to tell my guys here internally, they're like, look, create an equal stature, and that's the question, right? Or sorry, that's the statement. Like, look, Haim, I have an appointment right before you, and I got one after you, so I'm actually putting you on my calendar because it's very important to me that I get to you. So that's creating the importance, right, of your business and your time as well too. Most people don't do that.
Yeah, and that's, I think it's a huge point, because this dynamic and the understanding that we are on the same level, right? He's not better than us for sure, and we are, in a sense, right, we're helping him, right?
Exactly.
Like the doctor-patient type of relationship that we always talk about, right?
100%.
So that's a huge point.
Yeah,
huge point,
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
You want to get paid like a doctor, you got to ask questions like a doctor.
There you go. Feeling it. Also, and others, again, we heard with the other person that we spoke to, that they actually send a Calendly invite to the seller to make it even more official. So you put you on the calendar. I'm going to send you in what's your email. They can get the email. And also, again, what is also your cell phone number. So you're going to get reminders just to make sure, because sometimes, people forget. Again, it's just going to get directly to your calendar. You're going to get reminders. And this is like another verification that they're going to show up.
No, that's a good point. We try our best to do that as well. Obviously, sometimes you can't get email from sellers. We actually are taking it a step further. We're putting a Calendly link inside our PPC website as well, so that way people book the calls themselves. Yeah, they can book the calls themselves too. Yeah,
love it. Let's talk. You are big on keywords not to use. Again, you mentioned, let's put it in writing versus the contract or agreement, decision maker. You don't say how you doing. I know you, again, I heard you say it again, we don't ask the seller how they're doing. So can you talk about the big words that you guys you have a policy of not using during the call, that kind of red flags?
Yeah. And let me start by laying down a prefaces, right? Because here's the main thing, man. Our business is hard. You know this, Haim. You've been doing this, a little bit longer than I have, or as much as long have. Joaf, I'm not sure how long you've been in this business. it's hard, right? We're talking to sellers. And to sellers, we're a commodity. You guys know that, right? Like sellers see us as just anybody else, right? They can go online and they can pick up the phone, just like agents. So the main thing for us, the reason why we stay away from those words is because we want to set ourselves apart, right? We don't want to sound like everybody else. And there's some words that generally scare sellers for some reason, right? Like contract. What's the other one I said? Contract, decision maker, right? You talk to, if you ask me, are you the decision maker? Of course I'm the decision maker, man. I don't have to talk to anybody, right? It's a simple cop out and a simple way to answer that. How you doing? The reason why we don't, when we first start the call is because that you could run into a situation that you're gonna have to come back from, right? So if I call Haim, like, hey Haim, how you doing today? What happens? What if Haim says, hey, I'm not having a very good day today, man. I'm so sorry, and something happened, right? Now you're gonna be like, oh, so you're not considering selling your house? You can't do that. I know your dog died, Haim, or I know something happened in your family, or Joaf, you know what? I know you just told me you're not doing okay, but I still want to buy your house. Like,
Yeah.
now they might say that. They might say that later, but I don't want to create the main thing is here. This going back to my original statement, right? Is this business is hard. We want to set ourselves apart. I don't want to create any unnecessary objections. That's really the main focus of why we don't use those kind of words, right? Well, because if you say contract, I'm pretty sure, Haim, you've experienced this, Joab. I don't know if you have, but when you say contract, we were like, whoa, contract? No. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
Slow down, slow down.
Yeah, it's a word that
exactly. So that's what we use for contract. We'll use agreement, put things in writing. Again, for decision makers, is there anyone else that's going to have an input? Is there anyone that has veto power? Is there anybody the last time you made a big purchase, or a big commitment like this? Did you confide in anybody like your brother, pastor, or uncle? And a lot of times they're not thinking about this, right? A lot of times it helps the seller out, and the seller feels a lot more comfortable that you're taking that into consideration. And again, I'm not a big fan of starting the calls with, hey, I'm trying to reach, because again, you're creating an unnecessary objection for your calls.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah. I also don't like, when people ask you, what's your motivation to sell, right? Don't use motivation, right? You're making it so artificial, right? I mean, you can use better words than that, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. What's your motivation for selling? I think you're kind of insulting the seller. That's how I feel about it with that word.
It's making his feelings, it's yeah.
Yeah, you're only calling me.
Vultures.
Right.
We had
What's that?
vultures coming after. Yeah, we
Yeah,
have vultures.
You're only.
It's making it technical. It's making it very technical, right? You frame it, what's your motivation to sell? No, I mean,
100%.
it's you're making technical. Too technical.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure.
how do you ask this question? To get the motivation out of the seller. So what's the best question?
So there's two ways to do it. So after we establish the rules, we have what we called discovering pain, right? So in essence, that's motivation. Obviously, we don't ask the seller like, "What's your pain for selling?" We don't do that either. So the way that starts off, depending on what you have told me in the beginning. So let's say like before I established the rules and I said, Haim, how are you hoping I can help? And you tell me, well, I need to sell because, I got a job, transfer, I'm moving to Israel, whatever the case may be. So after I establish the rules and we have an agreement on what's happening on this call, my next question is going to be really simple. Like, Haim, earlier you had mentioned obviously that you're considering selling because you got an opportunity. You're moving to Israel. I mean, what else has you considering selling this property besides that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that opens up to get a little bit more information, right? Because the first statement that you made in regards to moving to Israel could just be that's not really the pain, right? Now we're gonna find out, is it family? Do you have something going on over there? Whatever the case may be. And then we'll just start probing a little bit more. Okay, how long and then if what else has you considered selling? Then you're going to tell me, say, how long has that been going on? Right? We're going to ask another follow-up question. How long has that been going on? Oh, this, okay. Oh, wow. And have you tried to do anything about it? Or, and then what else have you tried to do about selling the property? Now we're going to find out if there's other people involved, right? Have they talked to other investors? But yeah, I think, going back to, if you want to simplify this, the question, how long have you considered selling this, or what has you considering selling this? You know, again, that's a lot better than, you know, what's your motivation, or, you know, why are you selling this? You never want to use why in a questioning way. You want to use
Mhm.
why in confirming something, right? Because what happened when we grew up? Why are you doing that, right? Why are you leaving the lights on? That's what our parents would always say. So they have that ingrained. So we try not to use the word why either on a lot of our stuff.
For confirmation, again, you can use it in a sense like, it's Max. It does sound like, a great property. Why selling it, right? I
There
mean,
you
then
go.
you use the
There
why
you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
in a
Exactly.
confirming way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. I'd like to get more again technical with you because I really like the details. Again, I structure our calls very similar way.
Sure.
Uh, how do you handle when do you part of your setting the rules? How do you handle or the I need to think about it? Do you kind of kill it from the get go as part of you establishing the rule?
We do.
Or
We do. So
yeah,
so
so
in the part where we say, hey, Haim, if it makes sense for us to work together, and then we say, right, for us it means putting things in writing, and then, you know, obviously I'll ask you a question. I'll say, you feel comfortable doing that? The next statement is going to be that, right? Haim, you know, you seem like a nice guy. What I've had happen in the past is, instead of people telling me like, hey Max, this is not going to work out, or, you know, honestly, this is probably not what I would like to do, they actually tell me they have to think about it,
Mhm.
and for reasons that they don't want to offend me, which I'm okay. I rather hear that you rather not work with me than think about it. Can you promise me that that won't happen here with us today? Right.
Mhm.
So we get that out of the way. Here's the problem though, is if this is another higher level, if you understand personalities, right, like the disc profile, I don't know if you guys are
Mhm.
familiar with it, but the
Yeah.
disc profile,
Yeah.
you only have one personality type that's going to actually need more time to think about it, which is your the green, right?
Analytical.
Analytical.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the guys that are going to have to read the agreement, and those are usually your engineers, you know, which we don't really deal with a lot, right? A lot of engineers don't sell houses to wholesalers.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
We don't
That's
buy
the truth.
houses. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, but you'll have, you know, analytical people. But here's the cool thing: is like, let's say that Haim, you know, is an analytical person, or Joab. I'm gonna tell him like, hey, you say, well, usually I don't sign. I have to read through, and I have to, you know, figure out, you know, I have to read through it. I also have to talk to, you know, whoever, right? I say, okay, no problem. Now, Haim, usually when this happens, what I like to do, I like to give you 48 hours for you to read this over. Would
Mhm.
that be enough time for you? Right. And then
Mhm.
today, could you ask me enough questions today to make you feel comfortable that after that 48 hours, you know, potentially we can work together? Now I'm getting commitments, right? And so
Mhm.
48 hours. Okay. So it's 10:38 here in Phoenix. So Friday at 10:38, Haim, when I call you, what is that conversation going to look like? See,
Mhm.
so now I'm moving those through. So there's a way to actually maneuver the analytical people. Unfortunately, it's very rare that they sign on the spot, and I hardly ever see it happen.
Which in a kind of way is also legitimate when you think about it, right? Not every person and one of his biggest transaction in his life will be able to take a decision in, 40
Yeah.
minutes call. And Max, I'm sure there is a reason why you don't ask 24 hours. Why 48 hours? I'm sure there is a reason to it in your process.
It's too fast. It's the next day. Yeah, it's too fast. Yep, it's too
To
fast.
give them the time.
48. Yeah, 48 hours is, I think, and more than enough time, you know, to give them what they need, and to read the agreement. For 24 hours, just is too fast. Yeah. Yep.
Understood.
And here's the other thing too, is that we don't fill the contract out, right? We if we agree, if they're comfortable with price and they're comfortable with your terms, you leave them a blank contract. That way they don't shop your price.
Yeah.
Got it. So you're not gonna. So are you gonna give them the offer verbally, but on the you're gonna send them a blank
Verbally.
contract?
Not if they're, so the offers, again, this goes back to saying, because we don't, I know there's businesses that KPI is how many offers did you make. For
Mhm.
us, is we don't track that KPI because we don't make offers on every single property. We Because that's like your biggest leverage, right? Is your number. Now you can anchor, you can say, hey, what happens if someone makes you an offer between, you know, XYZ, you know, and
Mhm.
they say, well, I think that would be too low. Hey, I get it. That is too low. I'm not saying that I'm making that offer, but it's just a question I was asking if somebody made you that offer. So they have an idea, right, of ballpark where we would be at, but a hard number It's very rare unless they're signing the contract. They don't have a hard number until they say, yes, I'm going with you. Let's go ahead and put things in writing for the most part. Probably I would say 8 out of 10. They don't have our hard number, because that's your leverage, right? That's once they have your number, that's it. Like, it's over.
They took it all from you. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they took it all from you, and they're gonna call Haim, and they're gonna be like, Haim, can you beat this?
Can you pay $1 more? I'll go
Yeah,
with you.
can you pay $1 more? And then they got Haim's number, and they're gonna call Yoav. Can you pay this? Like, Haim and Max, they're offering this. Can you beat this? Right. So
And then I'm gonna
and again,
scorch the earth.
but again, that's the way we run our sales process, our business, right? Are we missing out on deals because of that? Again, yes. But I think at the end of the day, we're gonna get more deals and bigger deals because of it as well, too. Yep.
So what KPI do you track for your acquisition people?
So the first one is contacts. So we right, how many people did they contact? The second one is conversations, right? How many people do they have conversations with? For us, a conversation is typically if they get to the point where they establish the rules. So that would count as a conversation, not somebody that they call and like, hey, I'm not interested. That's a contact. Or hey, make me an offer, and they can't move them past them that objection of them making the offer with no matter what they said. That's a contact. That's not a conversation. Once you get to establish that's a conversation. And then here's the KPI where I think a lot of businesses differ from us, is that we call them AFAs, actual first appointments. These are the buy appointments, regardless if we make an offer or not. That's the KPI that we track, because now an actual first appointment can be on the phone. So like, let's say it could be on a one call or even on a follow-up call. Sorry. This is just an appointment where you're actually buying, where you're going to buy the property, right? It's a buy appointment. Now, a lot of times on the buy appointments, usually the offer isn't made, or we end it early because maybe we're not getting what we need from the seller. And then contracts after that. So we got contacts, conversations, actual first appointments, and then contracts. Those are the 4 KPIs that our acquisitions have per day or per week. Sorry.
Beautiful. Max, question. When hiring an acquisition, what skills and personality we should look for our, perfect candidate?
Woo! We can do a whole podcast about that,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. But in a nutshell, what type
Cliff
of
Note version.
experience, right?
No,
Very
we'll give
broad,
them.
very broad.
We'll give them the microwave version here. So, we've actually recently, when I think I want to say maybe about a year ago, we changed our strategy on how to hire acquisitions. We used to go for, because we use the predictive index, which is kind of a profile, shows individual's profile. And the profile that we used to look for sales was a maverick. And so the thing with mavericks is that their A is a lot higher, which means their drive. So basically gives them an upper hand, right? They're going to ask for the sale. They're not scared. They're not scared to push the sale and move forward. But here's what we saw is they get bored, because what I mean by that is that mavericks are also visionaries. So what happens, they could be sitting in a position for 3 months, 6 months, and they're crushing it and they're killing it. And they're like, okay, what's next? Right. So they get bored. And and here's the other thing too, is when you bring in somebody else as a player, mavericks tend to get a little bit defensive, like, oh, now you're bringing somebody else to take my deals, and they start to ruin the culture in a way, right? If you want to say that. So we changed that. But here's the
prima donnas.
Yeah, exactly. Prima donnas. Exactly. I'm a maverick, so I can say that.
You are a maverick? I'm a venturer.
Are you a venturer? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm a maverick. So my A does not measure. But here's also the part is I've had so much self-development, right? I've failed so much. I had so much self-development. It doesn't go away. Your profile never changes unless you have a dramatic experience in your life. But here's why we were able to change, not going after that profile, is going back to your systemized sales process, right? So now we can put in an adventure. We can put in what's the other one? A promoter, or even a captain, right? So you don't need them to be that high maverick, high driver profile. You can put somebody in there that has a little bit of a high A with a little bit of with a high D, which means they're going to follow a process. Because if you have a sales framework and a sales process, you can basically plug in any of those profiles to follow that process. That's really what you look at. Now, when you first start out, you want hustlers, right? You want guys to get deals. But as you grow and you build a culture and you build a business, you want to make sure that you don't have culture vultures, I call them. Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Man.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
You're welcome.
That's great. I think, again, if anybody wants to ask any questions here, we have Max here. We don't have every day an opportunity to speak with a closer like Max. What else I want to ask you? I think, and I love the how do you transition to the offer? That's again, I ask also RJ. How do you transition from again, when you understand, you put the anchor price, you took them through your points, the roadmap, but there is a time that okay, this is a prospect that I need to make an offer. How do you lead them? Because you like them to tell you what to do next. So how does it sound?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. There's going to be people that need to be closed. They are not going to tell you, right? Like, hey, here's what I want done, or here's what I would see myself doing. So you have to be conscious of that. I think maybe that's something I didn't elaborate too much on when I was talking about our process. Is that there's going to be people, right, that we don't technically have to put them through a whole process, which is called the quote unquote motivated seller. Does you a motivated seller, there's nothing wrong you can say that you're going to mess up a motivated seller. The idea is to get everybody in between, and that's kind of the market we're in, right? I think we're in a market where it's a seller's market still, and obviously the low hanging fruit is very scarce and in between. But there's two. So the two types are, if you have a motivated seller, and let's say that my MAO is 200,000, and obviously they say if we can get 170, I'll sell to you. I'm not going to put them through a whole process because I know that person is motivated. But here's what I will do is that I'm going to put them through a mini process of what we do. Because I don't want them to feel like, if I say, like, say, Haim, you told me my MAO is 200 and you're telling me 170. All right, Haim, where do I send the contract? Guess how that's going to make you feel? You're going to be like, oh, I think I moved too fast. Maybe I can get more money. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Yeah, I'm going to ask a few questions, right? Just to make sure to calm you down, get you from the way to positive and get you closer to more neutral, right? And that's really simple, asking 2 or 3 questions like, okay, so if someone was to offer you 270, I mean, what would happen next? Okay. 170. And then I'll ask you another 2 questions. And then the next thing I'm doing is sending out the agreement. Now, for the other prospects that are not, showing you that, hey, they're the quote unquote motivated seller, but they still need to sell, is if I have enough motivation, right? We'll use that word, or enough pain. I feel like I've relayed, you've given me enough pain that correlates with the sale of the property. This is where a lot of people make mistakes. A foreclosure is not pain. Okay. I've seen a lot of people get upset. Like, why isn't this person selling to me? He's in foreclosure. Like, I'm like, well, they're supposed to sell you the property just because they're in foreclosure. I see a lot of people get mad about that. Or, this person doesn't want to sell to me. He's got a lien that's going to wipe him out. Pain is personal, right? And pain has to correlate, not only personal, but hey, this pain is affecting me so much that I need to get rid of this property ASAP. So once we gather enough motivation, enough pain that we feel that we're getting ready to move in now into what we call the discovering price phase, all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a few questions to make sure that, hey, Haim, I'm going to recap everything you told me in the pain funnel. So I would say, hey, Haim, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. I understand you want to, move to Israel. You got situations going on with your family out there. Is there anything else that I'm missing out of that? Right. So that way, if there's anything you can tell me, Haim, real quick, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to get this done? Not necessarily with me. You don't have, obviously, I don't know if I'm going to buy this, but on a scale of 1 to 10, we usually want to hear 7 and up. Anything lower than that, we're going to have to revisit the pain questions. Now, if Haim says, hey, that's a 10, okay, 10. Okay. And my next question is going to be like, Haim, in the past, there's usually 3 things that has stopped us from working together. Or in the past, there's 3 things that stopped us from working with other sellers. Number 1 is other people. Number 2 is time frame, and number 3 is price. Out of those 3, which one would stop us from working together? Right? You're gonna say price.
Isolating. Yeah, to
Yeah, yeah.
isolate the objection.
Isolating the objection. Typically, it's either time or price. Price is number 1 always, obviously.
Mhm.
Okay, price. Let's talk about that. So now I'm gonna make a statement because I want you to correct me, and I'm gonna say, Haim, okay, price. So Haim, let's talk about that. Haim, I'm assuming this property's paid off. And you're gonna say, no,
No. I actually owe something against the property.
you owe something. Okay. And just out of curiosity, ballpark off the record, what do you owe on it? Right. We'll ask that question.
125. 125. Yeah.
125. Okay. 120. So we know, Haim, that we have to pay the bank. Obviously, the bank's not gonna say, hey, you don't need to pay me. So now we have $125,000. I can't make you an offer lower than that, right? Because that would be kind of shameful of me to make you that offer. So Haim, we know we got to pay the 125. What is that next check that you have to write on top of the 125? Right.
So
we're
okay. So you get a number from them. Again,
You
we
get a
ask you how much money do you want to walk away at closing? After
and then
we
that's
paid off?
right. Exactly. So now once you tell me I got to pay the mortgage and now I got to, I have to pay the car off. Now we went from 125 to 150. I'm saying, Haim, what do you need on top of the 150 to get you to move to Israel and get you closer to your family? Right.
Mhm.
And that works really well because the question about the mortgage, assuming that it's paid off, usually I would say 8 out of 10 times they're going to say no, they owe something on it. Sometimes
Mhm.
you'll have people that'll say it's been paid off, and then you got to take it a little bit of their route. But that's how I get them to give me a price and figure out what they want. A lot of times, what happens, and here's why we do that: a lot of us negotiate from what the property's worth instead of what they actually need to walk away with. And so that's a big mistake that I see a lot of people make, is that they're negotiating from what the property's worth instead of what they need. Because even the sellers themselves, they have no idea, like, oh, I never really thought about it that way, like paying off the mortgage, paying off my car, and then another 100K or 50K will help me out so I can move to Israel. Now you have a way lower number than what the property is actually worth. It's going to solve their problem. It's going to pay off all the expenses that they have. And guess what? They're happy, right? They're happy with that. And usually that number is a lot lower than your MAO.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I
Guys,
agree.
this
And
is
again,
nuggets, gold nuggets.
a lot of nuggets. I heard you one time said that again, you can't get more excited than the seller when you
No.
agree to the number, right?
No, you can't. No, you can't.
That's not a good idea.
You can't show that you want it more than they do.
Yeah.
And that goes back to my first example, right? With the motivated seller. Like, we've lost deals, right? Where the seller says our MAO was like 150 and the seller was like, I want 110. Okay, perfect. Where do I send the contract to?
This is
Like,
what
you get excited.
opportunity meets not skilled person yet, right? And this
Exactly.
is where things
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
mess up,
And you
right?
can lose a sell too, even though you were able to pay a lot higher. Well, guess what? They're not going to pick up the phone anymore because they're going to feel weird that, hey, I moved too fast with this guy. I need to slow down. I'm going to call someone else, So
I think it happens to every person here. I mean, every person who gets on the phone in some other way, it happened to him. I mean,
yeah.
this part of the
Yeah. Another thing too, Haim, is that's if everything goes perfect example. Obviously, a lot of times when we ask the question is that, hey, there's 3 things that would stop us to work, and they say price. Okay, let's talk about that, Haim. When you say price, can you tell me more about that? They're going to say, yeah, I'm just looking to get the highest offer. That's really what I'm looking for, right? Obviously, we talk to sellers that way. So my question to that would be, Haim, okay, so you're looking to get the highest offer. Haim, I ask you a question. Are you looking to get the highest offer, or are you looking to get the offer that's going to show up in your bank account? So that's going to create, right? Because we all know that the highest offer is not the one that shows up, right? They're either going to get price drop. Someone's just looking to, get it under contract, and they don't make it to the finish line. So I want them to realize, like, the highest offer is not always the best, but I'm not going to say that to you, right? Because I want you to defend the highest offer statement that you made, not me. I'm not going to sit there and say, hi, no, I would not, if you go with the highest offer, usually this is what happens. I'm not going to do that because it's your statement. I want you to defend it. I'm going to say, hi, are you looking for the highest offer, or are you looking for the offer that's going to show up in your bank account when it comes to closing? Joaf is laughing over here.
We need to create this gold nuggets icon that drops from the ceiling like every time. Guys, Max, I'm taking
Guys,
it. I'm taking
I
it.
told
I'm
you,
taking
I
it.
told you, I don't hold nothing back, man. I love sales. I love what I do, and this is part of what drives me. Right, this is my purpose. So, yep.
Awesome. Listen, Max, again, how can people follow you and learn about what you do? Again, you share a lot of great information on
Yep.
Instagram and in other places. So what's the best place for people to follow you?
So the biggest, the easiest way for people to reach out to me is on Instagram. I'm very active on there. I talk about these topics on a daily basis. I've had so many people message me just with the videos, with some of the nuggets that I've shared today. They've gotten deals. So it's on the screen there. It's a real Max Jimenez on Instagram, real Max Jimenez on Instagram, and if you guys have questions or you don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very active in my direct messages as well. I get people always sending me a message and I still reply. I think that's also huge. I'm not the type that doesn't reply unless you start with hello, sir, or hi, Mr. Jimenez, then we're not talking.
Can I buy you a cup of coffee and pick up your
Yeah.
brain? Yeah.
Yep.
Max,
Max,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Thank you
whoever,
very
guys,
much.
yeah, whoever wants to take his business to the next level, guys. I mean, we're looking to work with two more people to join our coaching virtual wholesaling coaching program by the end of this month. We want to work with you guys. We want to take you to the next level. We want to start 2022 with a bang. So whoever is interested in taking it to the next level and working with like-minded people and building a system, we want to work with you. So reach out, virtual wholesale, wholesalefromisrael.com. Reach out to us and let's talk.
Awesome. Max, thanks again. Again, I hope to see you in one of the upcoming masterminds.
Yeah.
And if I will stop by in Phoenix, I'm sure I'm gonna say hi. You
Of course.
always welcome in the Holy Land in
I
Israel.
appreciate that.
Always,
Yeah.
always.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I
Gonna be
First,
appreciate it.
first beer
our
on us.
VIP. Yes,
First beer on us.
sure, yeah.
Let's go.
Or tequila
Awesome.
shots.
Tequila,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Haim, again, high and here respect always, man. You're a great role model, and I think you guys are doing great stuff for the industry. So I appreciate it. Joaf, good meeting you. Thank you, sir, for everything.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
very
again
much.
having
Yep.
you and hopefully having you again, Max. Take care, buddy.
Yeah. Let's do it.